Well, hello and welcome to the living room of the dollhouse for another reading from The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and Joost Elfers for November 11th, the Day of the Underground. That's right, and here at the top of the page is a visual representation of the Day of the Underground. Well, we have us, what appears to be a jack hair popping up out of a ground hole. That's right. How do I know it's a jack hair? Well, you got to go by the length of the years, I reckon. I think that's how it's determined. In any event, is that an adequate representation of the Day of the Underground? I'd say it kind of makes sense with the title there, but how do we ascribe that to the day? Hey, who's to say? Maybe we'll make some kind of connotation as we get along with the reading. That being said, I don't think that's altogether important in the scheme of things. No, the scheme of things are it's someone's birthday today. It's November 11th, and if that's the case, if that's your birthday, I just want to say happy birthday. That's what's important here. But if this finds you late, I don't know, days, weeks, months, as it sometimes happens, you're probably a busy individual. It's understandable. Well, if that's the case, I hope you had a happy birthday. That's right. But for everyone else who's joining us randomly, I just want to say hello and welcome. And I hope you enjoy yourself. Hopefully you're here, ideally, to celebrate. That's right, November 11th. Now, before we dive in with the redirect, something I like to do around these here parts, that's to roll some dice. That's right, this is the DykASSt birthday broadcast, so we should live up to the namesake there by doing as much. But I do so more importantly for synchronicity's sake. And here we rolled us a 5 and a 4, 4 and 9. Now, what is synchronicity, you're probably wondering? Well, it's just you getting out in the world and letting the universe show you it's with you on your path. And to do so, you need a little bit of a waypost, if you like, a mutually agreed upon sign, if and you like. And you know what? Nothing better than a number on a pair of dice. It also works great for setting up time values. You know, you roll yourself some minutes there to find out how long you're going to be walking in a certain direction, say. And then, figure out directional values to set to number sets. So maybe take your own pair of dice. That's right. Now, you don't have to go with the number I rolled you. The intention's there. But hey, maybe put your own mutually agreed upon sign out there with the universe. But that being said, you go in a certain direction that you've determined for a certain length of time, and once you reach the end of that time limit, well, you look around for your signs. That's right. You stay eagle-eyed to things the universe might just throw in your path. And when you see those things, you chase after them. That's right. Hey, maybe you see yourself a rabbit poke up, and you're looking at him, you go, oh, shoot, there's a theme here going on. There's a rabbit. Maybe you're not one to chase after him, but maybe you walk towards him, and boom, maybe he bolts another way. Hey, you know what? Roll your dice. Find out how long to follow that direction. How long to follow the rabbit for if you can stay on his trail there. Who's to say? He might just take you someplace you wouldn't have otherwise gone to or seen. I don't know, maybe you're out there in nature. But you know what, then he disappears, say. Well, you know what, compose yourself. Stop, compose yourself, look around for your signs. You're out in nature. Hey, you know what, it might be a little bit hard to find such things. But keep rolling your dice. Say, you know what, maybe you find a direction, takes you up to a highway, and you know what, maybe there just happens to be a bus stop there. Who's to say? And maybe it's the number 9 line. That's right. Hey, that's a sign if ever I heard one there. Get on the bus. Maybe you don't ride it very often, but you know what? Maybe today you just so happen to have perfect change in your pocket to ride that thing. Hey, that's synchronicity too. I don't know. Maybe you roll your dice, find out how long to stay on the bus. Maybe it takes you into town, drops you off at a stop that's in front of a store, and hey, maybe there's a 45 or 54 in the address. You know what? Go on in there, see what you see. You never know. Maybe you meet somebody and it's their birthday too. It's just little things start to line up, and it's just there to show you the universe is with you on your path. I think you get the idea. So get out there, see, taste, touch, feel the magic. It's your birthday. You got to do something fun, expand your horizons. Well, I guess you don't have to do something fun, but that's my hope for you. In any event, hey, let's get on with the read. Your month is November, your day is the 11th, your sign is 18 to 20 degrees Scorpio of the Scorpio II period, and your quality and element is fixed water. All right, November 11th, the day of the underground. The complex individuals born on November 11 often present a bright, even cheerful appearance, which belays their depth as well as a turbulent, troubled, and secretive person in their nature. Powerful in controlling their environment, those born on this day stake their possessive claim on whatever people, material objects, or activities are important to them. Their contact with the dark side paradoxically fuels their humor and gives them what it takes to generate a sense of fun, all right, as is true with most good comics, it says in parentheticals. And those born on this day are natural family people, protectors of the roost and providers who like nothing better than to position themselves right at the center of a family occasion or an outing. Usually they have a talent for organization that lends structure to any professional organization or social group in which they find themselves. November 11 people are physically magnetic and know full well how to make use of their attractive powers. However, the flip side of their magnetic nature is seen in their falling under the spell of other magical figures. Both men and women born on this day generally have a well-developed masculine-feminine balance in their personalities. And for this reason, they usually make friends equally well with both sexes. However, November 11 men must be careful of their macho tendencies, and November 11 women of being alternately over-controlling and over-controlled. And those born on this day are able to voice their opinions in a most seductively convincing manner. They instinctively know how to get their way, sometimes alternating between aggressive and passive tactics with telling effect. They are also able to rein in their energies to sit and to wait. And unfortunately, waiting may mean procrastinating for November 11th people when pressing decisions need to be made. They also have a marked tendency to brood, which can lead to inaction and depression. And part of the problem for November 11 people is that there sometimes seems to be a war going on between their inner and outer selves. Friends may stare with amazement as the gifted November 11 person's talents, ambition, and career just seem to fade away into misuse and neglect. Often those born in this day are individuals seemingly destined for great accomplishments, but instead sink into obscurity, primarily because of insidious fears and an intense need for security. And for this reason, they must develop their willpower and sense of form and structure to propel themselves forward. Extended periods of time spent directionless inevitably result in frustration and repressed volcanic anger, which can explode in the face of those dearest to them at almost any time. However, those same November 11th people feel the sense of an overall purpose, they can handle temporary setbacks and disappointments, and their temper rarely rears its head. All right, hey, how about that for an overall well-rounded birthday read there? A lot of different dynamics going on, but very interesting, I thought. So in any event, hey, let's dive in with some notes. I like to provide a little bit of a commentary with what we just read, sometimes provide a little bit of context based on the other days I've read there in the past. So let's get to it, all right? November 11, the day of the underground. Complex individuals, you bring a bright, often cheerful appearance, which contradicts turbulent, secretive natures. Interesting. Powerful in controlling your environment, you're also apparently possessive of the people, objects, and activities that are important to you. So it makes sense to me that you'd have a penchant for being a natural family individual or a provider in that fashion. And with apparent magnetic powers of attraction, it also makes sense that you're able to find yourself at the center of groups that are important to you. Along with a talent for organization and humor as well, even if drawn from dark forces, right? That's probably from the Scorpio rulership influence of Pluto, but we'll get to that. You're probably great at a party, I would imagine, because of all these things. To the extent you're probably utterly exhausted after such events on account of trying to get FaceTime with everybody, and in the midst of putting in all the work with getting the logistics locked in. I could see it. But who's to say? I'm just trying to imagine the picture that they're painting here for you. However, The reading also claims your magnetic personality may make you susceptible to people with magical attributes. I'm not sure exactly what that means in a realistic sense of the word, but I'd argue that might just be what it took to capture your interest. Or someone on the other side of the coin who's overly modest and unassuming. It's kind of a counter to all your powers there. And the reading conveys that what is it? The reading conveys you as a quite the dynamic individual, in possession of a seductive manner, a balance of male and female attributes and polarities, and knowledge of how to get your way, but also with the knowledge of when to curb your powers. That's huge. A lot of these other folks don't know how to do that, so have to focus on that stuff. So if you have that, awesome. So it all seems like an upside is what I'm trying to get at. So I'm glad that the reading also conveys potential pitfalls. That's what makes this thing well-rounded, in my opinion. As with many other Scorpios, there's potential for a proclivity towards procrastination. And to the extent that you let your abilities stagnate, which could also extend not just to your career, but also your well-being and your behavior. That's right, so it's kind of like a snake eating its own tail. It gets after itself if you let it set in. So your Mars rulership, it might just speak to aggression and anger, perhaps, presenting. So a very interesting birthday, like I said, well-rounded to be sure. So with the Scorpio here, let's dive in to your numbers and your planets. I mentioned Mars and Scorpio rulerships, or Mars and Pluto with your Scorpio rulership there. Let's see what else primarily rules you here. Those born on the 11th of the month are ruled by the number 2, as 1 + 1 = 2, and by the moon. And those ruled by the number 2 often make good co-workers and partners rather than leaders. Imaginative and graceful qualities are enhanced by the influence of the moon. And both Pluto and Mars, ruler and co-ruler of Scorpio, respectively, supply power and force. However, these same planets also highlight the explosive anger and potentially manipulative tendencies of November 11 people. The number 11 lends a feeling for the physical plane, for November 11 people's sexuality due to their influence of Pluto, it says in parentheticals, as well as a possible interest in doubles of various kinds, coincidences, twins, symmetry, mirror images, etc. All right, hey, there's your numbers and your planets there. What else we got here? Oh, did the camera cut off there for a second? Been having trouble with that thing. We got to get it replaced there. All right, let's move on. Get distracted. This is one shot, one take here. What do we got? The number 2 and the moon for generally passive and reflective qualities imparted by the moon. But that isn't mentioned here so much. Though the idea of the number 2 imparting a make good partners and co-rulership dynamic over leaders is still present, which is interesting. Consider I very much got a leadership kind of quality from you, at least as far as the breakdown was concerned. But it was heavily rooted in a sense of community, in my estimations. So on its face, it seems like a bit of a disconnect, but maybe not when you get into the weeds of it. Who's to say? And maybe in a small part, this all speaks to the interesting dynamic imparted by Pluto and Mars. All right, so I could see it being argued, considering how much they like to shake things up with the other days and planets and such. And it might just have such dramatic influences that it takes a lot of that passive reflective nature out of the moon dynamic there. But who's to say? I'm not an astrologist, so I can't really speak to what all that means. But in any event, that's been your numbers and your planets. Let's dive in with your tarot. That's right here, your tarot. The 11th card of the major arcana is Justice. A serene seated woman holding the scales in one hand, sword in the other. She reminds us of the order of the universe and that balance and harmony will be maintained in our lives as long as we continue on the path. The positive aspects of this card are integrity, fairness, honesty, and discipline. The negative aspects are low initiative, impersonality, fear of innovation, and grievances. All right, hey, what do I have to say about your tarot here? Let's get into it. The more eclectic of the New Age metaphysical ideologies. Let's see what they had to say. I had to say here. Justice for balance and harmony in our lives, provided we stay on our path. All right. Positives of integrity, fairness, honesty, and discipline. Those are huge, all right? But the negatives are low initiative and personality and fear of innovation. Don't be afraid to innovate, I say, okay? You got the moon for imaginative and graceful qualities. And that's an apt card, I would say, in that respect. Especially considering the warning of procrastination leading to inaction and depression. That vicious cycle, if you let it get in there. Or abandoning of your abilities, that too. So balance is the watchword for a lot of Scorpios. I would argue that is just so applicable here as well. So find your balance with action and inaction. Everybody needs to rest, right? But always stay on your path, and you should stay in good standing, I would argue. That's right. Balance. It's a watchword for other Scorpios. It can be for you as well. And let's see if they bring it up, all right? So that's been your tarot. Let's move on to your health. All right, your health. November 11 people live very much on the physical plane and are capable of becoming obsessed with their bodies. And although they may be aware of what's wrong with them at any given time, they sometimes go overboard on treatments, both for themselves and their families. In addition, because of their tendency to fall under the influence of others, they must beware of having too much faith in doctors or the latest cures and treatments. Vigorous exercise is here recommended, for example, aerobics, dancing, running, and gymnastics, but competitive sports may not be a good idea. Curbing desires for coffee, cigarettes, alcohol, and all stimulants is important, as those born on this day seem to gravitate toward them. Ooh, you like your stimulants, do you? Hey, you know what? That seems like a little bit of a Libra thing. They had to stay away from the stimulants by and large there. Any event, hey, let's get into it, shall we? With your numbers, or no, with your health rather. With your health. What do we got here? Very much present in the physical plane and capable of becoming obsessed with your body, the reading said. To the extent you may go overboard with treatments for yourself and your family. And influence by other dynamics is here mentioned that I don't recall being mentioned directly. I guess I could understand. So do your due diligence with the doctors there. Being influenced by others was something they mentioned, but I didn't see in the book otherwise. That's what I was trying to mean there. So, due diligence with your doctors, all right? Get a second opinion. That's always okay. What else we got here? But no mention of diet here in the health, interestingly. Strange, actually. They sometimes at least talk about a little bit of it, but not for you. So be balanced, I would argue. But avoid stimulants, apparently. Like I said, first mention of as much with the Scorpios. So maybe take note for that reason. But like I said, that's typically a Libra thing. So it's kind of interesting in that regard. How they determine that for you? Who's to say? But in any event, that's been your health, so let's move on to some advice. Oh, let's get some advice. I think we've got a lot of it already, but hey, you can always get some more, right? Forget your own wishes occasionally. Give unconditionally, but don't be a football. Express your talents, thereby avoiding frustration. And demand what you need, but be accepting of what fate serves up. All right, hey. I like that. But I do think they just kind of went over a bunch of the things you've already mentioned. So let's see what I had to say here. I had to write it in the book. I ran out of space on the notebook. Forget your own wishes. Maybe from being too focused on what you can get from others versus what they can get from you. And I put a question mark. I thought maybe that's what that has to deal with. But I'm not too sure about that one otherwise. All right, give unconditionally. Interestingly, I kind of had the idea that you did give unconditionally, all right? But again, maybe there's some kind of facet of that that speaks to make sure it's not for your own benefit, but for others. In any event, not sure about the football part, but maybe don't get thrown between folks so much with your energy. That's kind of what I thought with that one. Express your talents. Stay on your path. That's right. Keep your initiative going. We said all of that, didn't we? Demand what you need, it said. I don't know, you stake your claim on what you want, the reading claims, but maybe this speaks to figuring out a way to be all right with what you might not get when you're looking for it, or what you get as a substitute for something you wanted otherwise. Maybe I wanted a camera that worked, and they sent me this one instead. I'm saying I got to be okay with it. I got to roll with the punches there. That's right. So in any event, that's been your advice and what I had to say about it. Let's take the energy down a hair. Move on to your meditation. That's right. Ooh, I stymied myself there. Your meditation. All right, here we go. Blind adoration and allegiance have no real place in spirituality. Oh, that one's kind of loaded there. One more time. Blind adoration and allegiance have no real place in spirituality. All right, hey, that's your meditation. It's your birthday. I'm not going to try to throw some spin or evaluation on it that might just influence you. And you know what? This is your meditation, your birthday, so I'm going to leave you with it. Once more, blind adoration and allegiance have no real place in spirituality. All right, hey, that being said, with your meditation in the can, as it were, let's move on to your strengths and weaknesses. That's right. Hey, let's hold up the objective mirror, see what we see about ourselves, maybe do some work as we have these things pointed out to us, just, in large print there, so to speak, at least for me to correlate to you. That's right. All right, your strengths, you're persuasive, you're colorful, you're energetic. Oh, I like those ones. I don't think I've ever seen colorful on there. It's interesting. Where they get that, not quite sure. But in any event, hey, let's move on to your weaknesses. Can you guess what they are? Ooh, let's flip that objective mirror around to the other side that really blows up your image there. Distorts things a little bit, if you like, sometimes, depending upon how you look at it. Anyway, your weaknesses, you're possessive, you're troubled, and you're spellbound. Spellbound. No, that's speaking to that magical element there. That's a weakness? Hey, you know what? Maybe a little bit. But interestingly, troubled keeps popping up. That isn't common. It's not common that those carry through day after day. And they have been doing that. I don't know if that's lazy writing speaking. Let's lean into that not being the case. Maybe it's just the case that a lot of the folks in the Scorpio period have this issue. But that being said, you know what? I think you've got the powers and those strengths to overcome such weaknesses, if you like. And they gave a lot of things to round out the birthday read that would suggest how to avoid those things, if then you find them to be the case. All right, hey, so that's been your advice. Let's move on to those born on this day. And when we get into those born on this day, not only do we see who shares your company, which could be interesting to see what lottery we drew, but I like to segue into something I find important, and that's figuring out our passions. That's right. Too often I get out in the world and meet folks, and you know what? They don't like what they do. And you know what? Who can blame them? A lot of times we get out there in the world right out of school into a job we need immediately just so we can put some food on a table and a roof over our head. And then, you know what? It starts to get easy. We get used to it. We start climbing that corporate ladder. Maybe we're not making as much money as we'd like. And then that starts to dog on us. And you know what? At the root of it, we're just not doing what we want to do. And you know what? A lot of times we don't know what we want to do. So it's just because we haven't had the time to put into work to figure those things out. At least I would argue. That's right. And you know what? You can't blame folks for that either, because you know what? A lot of time we don't have time when we get off work to put in that work. So in any event, hey, I figured this is the perfect opportunity for us to not only see who shares your company, but what they did to get famous in the book, get their stamp on the cultural zeitgeist, if you like. Might not have been their passions, but that being said, maybe it stirs up some fires of inspiration within you. Maybe me just mentioning as much puts the bug in your ear about it. And you know what? If anything I can do for you on your birthday, I think it's that. It's important that we backflip out of bed ready to get to work, have fun with our lives. And so hopefully I can provide that with you. But let's stop talking about it. I think you get the idea. Let's dive into it. Those born on this day. We start off with Fyodor Dostoevsky there, a Russian novelist of Crime and Punishment and the Brothers Karamazov, and a short story winner of The Double. He was also a political philosopher and says Diary of a Winter Journalist. We have Carlos Fuentes, Mexican writer, novelist, diplomat, university professor, and responsible for The Campaign. We also have George Patton, the U.S. World War II general and tank commander. We also have Daniel Ortega, Nicaraguan Sandinista revolutionary and a president. And we also have Kurt Vonnegut Jr. How about that? Old Kurt Vonnegut there, novelist of Slaughterhouse-Five. I went to his museum there in Indianapolis. Yeah, it's a little just office building, more like, but hey, it's the official museum there. In any event, we're moving on to Salvatore Lucky Luciano, Sicilian-American mafia boss and leader of the U.S. East Coast organized crime. And it says he was deported. Didn't know that. We have Demi Moore, the film actress. Alger Hiss, a U.S. State Department employee accused of treason and indicted for perjury, also convicted. We have Abigail Adams, a first lady and wife to John Adams, a woman of letters, it says. Mose Allison, a jazz pianist, singer, songwriter. Jonathan Winters, the comedian, film, and TV actor. B.B. Anderson, Swedish film. Bergman actress, it says. Howard Fast, a writer of Spartacus. And we also have René Clair, French filmmaker. A Nous les Libertés and La Million, apparently, is what they're responsible for. Movies, I'm assuming. We have Edouard Vuillard, French 19th, 20th century painter. Pat O'Brien here, film actor. Robert Ryan, film actor. We also have Marie Bashkirtseff, a Ukrainian diarist, it says, and died at 16 of tuberculosis. It must have been one popular diary. A lot of times folks die that young. They don't make it in the book, I wouldn't think. We have Paul Signac, French neo-impressionist painter. Ernest Assermet, Swiss conductor of Orchestre de les Suisses Romands. And let me tell you something here. A lot of foreign folks today, French names. I don't usually do well with French names, but I think I did okay. You know what? In case I butchered them, let's just do a little butchering on my side of things to make up for it. It's not done in malice, it's just hooked on phonics. It doesn't often work for me with the French names there. Any event, hey, I know a lot of these things, a lot of writers, a lot of leaders, a couple wives of famous people, you know, such as that goes. I hate that ends up being their claim to fame, as being the partner of someone else, but sometimes that's just as important. They're the other side of that particular entity, if you like. And that, you know what? The other person's the one that gets all the notoriety, I would argue. But in any event, you know what? I know it's a big ass tall order to take some kind of inspiration from things other folks have done, but like I said, hey, hopefully it just stirs up the fires to get you considering what you got to do to figure out your passions. But if you already know what your passion is, hey, maybe it just helps you figure out how to make it financially viable. That's right. In any event, I think it's a worthwhile thing to examine. But that being said, that essentially rounds out your birthday read, except to say your season is fall, your sign, and once again, is Scorpio. The Scorpio II period specifically. Last day of it, I believe. Yes, it is. Last day of it. And your quality and elements is fixed water. Now, what does that mean? Well, that's a different video altogether. I think I got it there at the end for you to click on if you're interested. But in any event, hey, that has been November 11th, the day of the underground. I don't know that we made any connotations with the rabbit poking his head out to see what he would see, but you know what? Not altogether important, like I said. Anyway, this has been The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider, UST Elfers. I have an affiliate link for this book down in the description if you're interested in picking up your own copy and diving in with the other birthdays. Makes a great coffee table book. It's going to get the ice broken, the party started for all that company you have over. Said you're somebody who just brings in the folks, magnetic. And you know what? Maybe you just don't have time to get to everybody. And you know what? This is going to help with that. Yeah, you know what? So I just saved you the trouble of having to type it in a browser. Just click the link if you like. And help out the channel in the bargain too. But in any event, hey, that's not what's important here. What's important is it's someone's birthday. That's right. And wishing you a happy birthday, like I said at the top. So I just want to wish you a happy birthday. I hope you took some value out of this, found something interesting to take from it. Hope it spoke to you to some extent. And if maybe we mentioned some pitfalls, even if it didn't speak to you, maybe you could take something from it. I find this thing interesting for that reason alone. I've been reading a lot of birthdays. I take all sorts of things from other days myself. That being said, once again, I just want to say happy birthday. And for everyone else that joined us, hey, I hope to see you for your birthday read. Hope you enjoyed yourself too there. But lest we forget your daily numbers. That's right. Get out there and let the universe show you it's with you on your path. And for you being, what was that tarot card you had? I don't rightly recall. the Hermit or the Hanged Man, maybe. But I do remember they said that it's important you stay on your path, all right? And you know what? Maybe just get out there and let the universe show you it's with you on that thing, all right? Important. But hopefully you just have some fun. But hey, you know what? It's probably cold out there, so button up. Take care of yourselves. It is your birthday. See, taste, touch, feel the magic. I'm hoping you do. All right, once again, happy birthday. Take care.